Salesforce's growth, particularly over the last decade, has been monumental. Mark Benioff's insatiable appetite for innovation and change has seen the cloud company accelerate into truly uncharted territory, lifting the ecosystem up right along with it. However, with growth comes both benefits and unfortunate pitfalls. Perhaps the biggest and most brushed aside pitfall of all? The rise of broken, mismanaged, and downright wrong Salesforce implementations. Let's take a closer look at it all. It's no secret that implementations are one of the most important things to get right in the entire world of Salesforce. If we were to think about implementations as the root in the tree of the Salesforce pipeline and processes going forward, it would quickly become evident that if the roots aren't established, then the rest of the project will suffer as a result. Not only that, but Salesforce implementations are expensive. Despite often being seen as a valuable investment, potentially boosting revenue by up to 37%, implementation costs can range from $10,000 for basic projects to upwards of $200,000 and occasionally all the way into the millions for more comprehensive projects. In order for a Salesforce implementation to be successful, a number of factors need to be considered, including a client's budget, needs, timelines, and expectations. On the partner side, they need to be clear with realistic deliverables, regular check-ins, and pushing back when something is likely to negatively impact the final result. With all of this in mind, it could be assumed that out of the thousands of partners on the Salesforce's partner community and the AppExchange consultant database, high-quality, realistic, and functioning implementations would be delivered all the time. However, this is unfortunately not the case. It's impossible to understand just how many Salesforce implementations are successful, with the sheer number of implementations being completed every day. Not only that, but the fog and uncertainty that hangs around this topic are apparent, to say the least. Failed implementations are not something anybody is quick to shout about. However, after chatting with different members of the ecosystem, partners, end users, and some CEOs, it quickly became clear that the scale of failed and unfinished implementations was only one side of this issue. The other critical side of this is why this is happening. Joey Chan, a principal consultant and founder of Cloud Jedi Solutions, said that he estimated he had an 80 to 90% success rate on the implementations he has worked on, but that it was important to consider that a lot of the projects weren't classified as greenfield. In fact, the vast majority of people I spoke to continuously repeated the same sentiment. They were often tasked with cleaning up implementations that were unfinished, broken, lacking documentation, or just wrong in some other way. Chris Smith, an independent Salesforce consultant, said,
I work with a couple of smaller consultancies, and ones who that is their entire business, following up after these and cleaning up after them.
Something is evidently going wrong with implementations, so let's dig deeper. What's going on, and why? Big growth means big profit-earning opportunities, which must be highlighted. With the huge growth of Salesforce, combined with the consultancy boom of 2020/2021, it's no surprise that partners have latched onto these new opportunities. However, it has regrettably impacted both customers and other consultancies in place to pick up the pieces of notable mistakes. Opinions on just how big of an issue this is range within the ecosystem, but Gaurav Khattapal, the founder and CEO of Vanshiv Technologies, said that he's definitely observed it, stating that,
Sometimes I have seen it happen. People would deploy suboptimal teams that are not really suited for projects and without doing thorough due diligence on processes, skills, and their overall alignment to Salesforce.
He admitted that the strong desire to cling on to the rising growth opportunities is likely one of the biggest reasons that the decline in quality has been so apparent, with the push to hit sales targets being stronger than ever. It's evident that this stems from reasons other than consultancies fighting to get competitive advantage though. Although every consultancy, and at a more granular level, every consultant, will have their own approach to customer/business management, it is always important for those key business analysis skills to be utilized, as consultants and business analysts share a lot of their skills. Specifically, communication, collaboration, and documentation. Mike Martin, the Chief Customer Officer at 10K, says that he thinks an underutilization of these skills or practices is one of the things contributing to the gravitation to growth and profit over quality. He says that many implementations suffer from a tour guide versus taxi driver problem, where consultants simply follow orders instead of providing strategic guidance.
A lot of these consultancies will just come in and take orders. They do exactly what the client asks, and that's not the right approach to consulting.
It's clear that a fair few experts in the industry acknowledge that the prioritization of profit and growth over the quality of implementations is a very real and pressing issue. However, we can't begin to observe how damaging this is until we examine the knock-on effects of what have happened and could continue to happen. Andre van Kampen, a freelance Salesforce consultant and owner of the ISV forum, shared that over half of the implementation projects he's observed seem to prioritize speed and cost over quality, which he believes leads to poor user adoption. The implications on the consultancy side aren't any better, with Barney Hayward, the co-founder of Futureform, saying that consultancies okay with this approach are naive, and they can quickly begin to affect repeat business. Not only that, but this marring of reputations doesn't just apply to Salesforce customers, but the partner's relationship with Salesforce themselves. I would like to think that if you asked a consultant what lies at the heart of every implementation, they would say the customer. While putting this video together, my belief occasionally faltered, but I do still believe that there are more good consultancies out there than bad, and I'll come back to that later. When I asked experts in the industry what the most common complaints they had heard from clients were, 4 things stood out: not adhering to best practices, unclear, incomplete or non-existent documentation, a lack of value realization, and implementations just not working. Joey mentioned that a complaint he would often receive from clients who came to him to fix a dodgy implementation was that it was just not well architected and didn't follow best practices. Quite understandably, he was quick to tell me this complaint was not only common but well grounded too. This comes at a time when Salesforce have been spending the last few years putting in a lot of effort to define best practices as part of their well-architected initiative. It was Gaurav who really explained to me how key value realization is to customers and clients, saying that the most common phrase he would hear was, "We bought Salesforce, but I don't think we're using it properly, or I don't think we're getting value from it." He explained that 2 things primarily cause this: 1, poor implementation, or 2, reluctant adoption, both damaging results for a consultancy. To avoid this, Gaurav's recommendation reflected Mike's, going back to the tour guide metaphor. Guide the user through the journey, don't just take them to the destination. Chris covered the last 2 complaints on the list when I interviewed him, laying out the facts very plainly. He said the biggest one, firstly, is that documentation is completely incomplete, and the second one is that the implementation is just not working or what they asked for. Chris, who is part of the ecosystem in the UK, says that he's definitely seen his fair share of precarious implementations. However, as an independent consultant, he has benefits that help him deal with this issue, like being able to step in and say no when he believes that something isn't working. As observed by other experts, sometimes there is a real pushback from higher authorities within bigger consultancies to keep implementations on track no matter what. This approach might sound useful at first glance, but it can quickly make a turn for the worse if glaring issues are swept under the rug. If you've seen any of our previous videos concerning the Salesforce job market, then you'll know we're no stranger to talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Last year, we reported that the Salesforce job market was saturated, mainly due to supply heavily outweighing demand, and a driving force behind this is the sheer number of certified professionals. 2023 saw over an 100% increase in certified professionals across partners, from just over 82,000 to nearly 173,000, and 2024's numbers are predicted to look not too dissimilar. The effects of this have been felt across the Salesforce consulting industry, and opinions are mixed. When I asked Mike whether he thought consultancies taking on certified professionals who perhaps lacked the experience had negatively impacted the market, he was quick to agree. Zed Usmani, a senior Salesforce developer and architect, said that a company he worked with even made certifications a big part of their hiring strategy. Tal Frankfurt, the founder and CEO of Cloud for Good, highlighted the issues with this practice, emphasizing that consulting is all about the experience and what you can do rather than what you know.
Consulting is about the battle scars. It's about the experience. Where have you done this before? That's part of the reason why we're seeing this kind of decline in value creation for customers who come to us looking to fix it.
I feel as though Mike was able to sum up the issue with an admirable air of succinctness.
It's easy to learn Salesforce with Trailhead, but it's hard to learn consulting.
When it comes down to the conversation of Salesforce and the support it offers consultancies and partners, I was surprised to find that opinions seem to be very split. There is no unanimous support of appreciation of Salesforce and the support that they offer, but there is no complete damnation either. For example, Gaurav was quick to praise Salesforce for their offerings, stating that no other cloud platform provides the kind of support that Salesforce does. Barney and Zed's sentiments also echo this, citing Salesforce's support of their past projects as superb and all they need. For others, thoughts leaned more towards the idea that Salesforce was indeed trying, but it feels as if they're missing the mark. One of the most notable stats from this year's 10K Salesforce Talent Ecosystem report is that the number of consulting partners grew by 20% last year, but Salesforce reduced the team's supporting partners too. This reduction in support has been felt, with some consultants feeling like they've been left in the dark. One person I spoke to filled me in on an underbelly of politicism that they felt runs through the consulting industry, stating that Salesforce appeared eager to push certain bigger partners over smaller partners, despite their having reputations of the biggest issues. This, in turn, meant that these smaller consultancies were feeling pressured to sell more than the customer might want, in order to improve selling rates and appeal more to Salesforce. Another person I spoke to admitted that it went as far as making them feel like partners were not really wanted, and that the days of winning Salesforce deals based on achievements and personality are gone. With a situation as complicated as this, it can be very easy to start pointing fingers in an attempt to direct the blame somewhere. However, perhaps unsurprisingly, there is not a single perpetrator here. The fault lies with more than one party. The customer, the partner, and Salesforce all need to be aligned for implementations to work, Gaurav told me. I mean, it makes sense. How is implementation going to get off the ground successfully if there's a disconnect between the sides? If one thing is true, then it seems to be the agreement on the importance of establishing scopes, expectations, and timelines from the beginning. It's something that, if done wrong, could lead to the blame of the sales team for underselling or overselling. That leaves us with one question. Where does Salesforce stand in all of this? Well, it's clear that Salesforce's support is not being felt everywhere within the consulting industry, and this has undoubtedly impacted the way that implementations are delivered. It's something that Andre said was not made any better, as quick and easy implementations have always been an integral part of Salesforce's sales pitch and customer expectations. When that kind of message is portrayed, we quickly begin to notice that something has to be sacrificed, as can be observed through something like the unattainable triangle. Much change is needed across the board to solve this issue, that we can be sure of. There is no denying that we are dealing with a problem bigger than many of us realise. So how do we fix it? The path to recovery here is long, and there will be a load of roadblocks. For example, it would be easy to say to a partner, well, make sure you prioritise the quality of the implementation over anything, even if it takes longer, because internal pressures could currently be preventing that. Or we could say something like, hire professionals with experience over certifications, which again sounds easy enough, but becomes trickier when you have stakeholders and customers that want to see heavily certified professionals working for them. It's also, of course, very expensive, which in a market as competitive as the one that we're seeing, it's something that businesses will have to consider. One key takeaway that can be worked on almost immediately is project transparency and getting all teams involved from the beginning to establish expectations. There is a clear need for more comprehensive and detailed approach to implementations with a focus on improving the user experience. This will play a big role in keeping customers satisfied and increasing the chances of repeat business. It's also going to be important for consultants to help customers understand what a healthy solution looks like, in Joey's words. The more aware customers are, the more confident they will feel to voice their concerns and choose what's best for them. And although Salesforce's unit dedicated to partners has been reduced, hope is still not lost. Someone recounted that their consultancy had been giving dedicated SE sessions with a specialist from Salesforce, dedicated to partner education, indicating a much brighter future. Problems in the Salesforce ecosystem surrounding dodgy implementations and partner politicism can't be put down to just one cause. But Salesforce does not have a problem with bad consultancy partners as a whole. That's right, Salesforce does not have an issue with bad consultancy partners, but it does have an issue with the way implementations are delivered. And the steps to improve this lie with Salesforce, the partners, and even customers to a certain extent. It would be naive to assume that most consulting partners are bad, and you could argue that it could also be naive to assume that most consulting partners are good. However, where the intention is good is more clear to see, and it's within these partners and communities that the spotlight should be, highlighting the good that could very easily be outshadowed by the bad. Where the faults happen and the bad lies within the consulting ecosystem are where change is most needed, and change starts by talking about the problem and navigating some of the solutions, which I hope this video will be a springboard for.